Welcome back to the Modeling Success in Action podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, and today I am joined by the fantastic Cyndi Tryon. So, Cyndi is a consulting hypnotist and NLP practitioner who helps individuals break free from mental roadblocks and reach their full potential. Inspired by her own experience overcoming chronic insomnia through hypnosis, Cyndi became dedicated to helping others reprogram subconscious patterns for success. She specializes in guiding clients through major life transitions, boosting self confidence, and teaching the power of a language and the mind. When she's not working with clients, Cyndi enjoys spending time with her 8 grandbabies, gardening, and playing with her chickens. Welcome, Cyndi. It's so great to have you here.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm so happy to be here today.
So, tell us. I know that for a lot of people who are in hypnosis, it's because we had a personal experience with it, and so I'm curious, what kind of led you to try hypnosis to help with the sleep issues?
Well, I was over in Bali and I had forgotten my sleeping pills when I got there. And typically for years and years, I'd only slept 2.5 hours a night and was go, go, go for many, many years. And when I was there, just the jet lag had caught up to me and I couldn't sleep and I had work to do. So I was pretty miserable and just Googled some things and found some hypnosis. So I actually tried it online and was surprised that I actually slept. So, and I did it again and I slept again and again. So it made me get curious.
Yeah. So you found like a YouTube video or some recording that you just listened to and it
Mhm.
allowed you to, yeah. Right. That's what
Mhm.
I always tell people when they're going, could I do self-hypnosis on my like hypnosis on my own? Like, yeah, you could go and you could go to YouTube, you can do whatever you want to do. And it can work if you're using it. But if you need the accountability, having a hypnotist to work with can be really helpful. That's so awesome that you were able to find the resource. So then where'd you take it from there once you started to pull on that thread and get curious?
So I've many clients that I've worked with over the years, and I found that they were stuck in many different things. And it was during COVID. And I was just looking for ways that I could help people or change even myself. Like I needed to grow and I wanted my clients to grow. And I got out my sort of computer and started looking around, and Hypnosis Training Canada just came up. And there were some other places too, but I used a pendulum and it kept coming back to Hypnosis Training Canada. So I reached out to Robbie, and pretty much the rest is history.
Yeah. Hypnosis Training Canada, for those of you who are going, what's that? That is where both Cyndi and I trained for our hypnosis skills. And I gotta say, it's got some of the best SEO out there if you're looking to be trained in hypnosis and you live in Canada. So okay. So then you found Robbie, you found Hypnosis Training Canada. And so, how quickly were you able to take action on that and start utilizing it to help people?
Right. So I started in July and I rented my clinic in September. So it was just a few months later, I was ready to run with it and get going with it.
Wow, that's a fast turnaround. It's pretty incredible that you can take action that quickly. Were you surprised that you had a clinic running within a couple months of finishing your training?
Well, actually, I didn't even think about that. That never came to mind. All I had was Robbie's voice, get the butts in the seats, start working with people. And I didn't have anywhere to work with people. I tried it at home and my dog kept licking their faces and the cat would lick them. And I thought, this is not useful. Where can I go? And luckily, my husband was like, well, let's start looking. And within probably 4 hours of him saying that, I was already driving around looking at properties. So,
Wow.
yeah, pretty fast.
So you're the kind of person who's really just like ready to jump in and take the action when, the you get the call.
On a lot of things, yes, there are some things that I could probably, speed it up in that as well. So
Yeah. Okay. So the clinic's happening. And so what did you notice when you started to work with clients? What was your experience like of using hypnosis in this way?
I was really surprised how quickly people just accepted, adapted it, and ran with it themselves because I had made up in my mind that it would be a lot harder than what it actually was. And it was me that was actually making it harder.
Isn't that the truth? We
Yes.
often make it so much harder on ourselves than we need to because we're stuck in old rules or old patterns, right? And we're thinking it's because we used to do it a certain way, that is the way, or that's the way that it is. And it can really
And so
sabotage.
meant on yourself to do it perfect and to be all these things that really wasn't necessary. It was just, just learning how to get into a rhythm, right? And really stepping outside of yourself to be in the energy of the other of your client.
Mhm.
And that was kind of a breakthrough moment for me.
Yeah, the experience of stepping into someone else's world
Stepping in.
experience.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So really, I mean, the concept of this entire podcast series is about looking at people and, trying it on. I liken it to like, being at the mall and you've got a bunch of different outfits you're trying on in the change room and you see what fits well, what's the outfit that's going to suit the occasion, right? Because,
Mhm.
maybe this, wonderful suit fits you so nicely, but the outcome is to go play in the yard with the chickens and maybe that's not the outfit you want to wear, right?
A fun outfit to wear in one day, but maybe not in the near future.
Yeah. So tell us about your experience of modeling, of stepping into people's models of the world. What was that like for you, or what is it like for you as you play with that?
Yes. Well, I remember Robbie asking us to choose someone in our very first class, to choose someone to model. So my main model that I use is Audrey Hepburn.
Mm.
So she's my main girl, and I often stick very close to how she dresses. And, I've always got my pearls on and that. So I'm very connected to Audrey. I like how she moves, how she's playful, and I love stepping into her energy. Um, she had a bit of sass in her day, but in many different areas of my life, I model other people, and what I discovered in modeling is that I've been doing it for years and had no idea.
So you were trying on things like all the way along as you were learning to do things. It's interesting because we do. I mean, that's how kids learn, right? We naturally are modeling other people. We're watching the adults and the people in our life and we're going, okay, like I want to walk, they're walking. What's it like to walk, right? And like I want to, be able to do this or that or the other thing. And we do kind of like watch and see what's happening with other people and then step in. It's when we
Mhm.
start to compare or get jealous that it can sabotage our ability to be willing to model, though.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, did you discover anything surprising when you did, start to do it purposefully?
Well, the one thing that I noticed that I was able to get out of the turmoil of my mind, and I was able to shake things off that I would typically, go over in my brain a lot or worry about. And when you step into these other energies, it's like you're, in a role for a movie, right? So you actually take on the persona of what you're going into the room. And now it's so easy for me to slip into many characters in a day. Which character do I need right now? So I guess when I model success, it's like the one thing that I really like to do is step into what I call observation mode, right? So I want to watch how that person maybe they're moving, they're speaking, they react to things. And like the rhythm too, how are they moving, right? And getting into the rhythm of that. I'm listening, maybe if they're really strong in their speaking, are they certain? Do they need to have an air of, authority? Are they being curious, or are they the ones that need to be perfect? So I'm just noticing all of those things. Posture, how are they breathing, all of that. And so once I sort of get that, then I can step into it. And I know when we were at a conference, and there was a lot of stuff happening there, and there was an uncomfortable feeling. So my other go-to actress that I love to model is Julia Roberts. And the scene where she's in the store going back and she's all dressed up and she said, "You guys work for um
You guys work
tips."
on commission,
Yeah,
right?
mission, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Big mistake, huge. But it's the moment she walks out the door down that street and she's sashaying down. And as I stepped down off the stage and walked out of the conference room, Pretty Woman came on. And I just had the biggest smile when I went out. And I think the surprising thing was people were stopping me going, "Great speech, great talk." And I was like, "Oh, wow." Right. But
Yeah.
it allowed me to step out of that, I'm going to fall on my face when I get off the stage. So it was pretty funny.
Right. So you use like her mindset to feel the confidence that you needed at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
stepping into their mind, and I kind of asked myself, what must they believe to act this way? What is it they do? Or what would they say moments before they make this decision? Um, Sometimes I'll even look in the mirror and try to copy some of their um, their reactions. And then I can always feel that feeling that shifts inside of me. So it's actually really cool to do this. And it makes me feel a little bit more playful.
Yeah. And it's kind of fun to know that you can just borrow from here, there, and everywhere. And,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be so rigid. You can play with it.
Mhm. I remember years ago, and probably this is one of my earliest experiences of modeling. Um, and it's a twofold story. So I was in big trouble my very first day of work. Like I spilled all the coffee, spilled the donut. And this lady was busy writing me up for all these things. And finally I was like, "Who are you?" And she goes, "I'm your regional manager." And I said, "Great." I said, I'm gonna have your job." And she goes, "Here you go." And I go, "No, no, it'll take me a year to do that." So that whole year I watched when she would come in, how she would write things, and a year to the date I got offered her position.
That's
Right.
pretty incredible. And just from modeling her mood and her attitude and the way she was, taking action.
Yeah. So then fast forward 3 years later, I'm in the office and I'm really bored with the job I'm doing. So I decided to take it upon myself to go and, just like Goldilocks, sit in all the chairs in the office to see who I wanted to be next. So I went to the director of operations. I went to the marketing managers. I went to the corporate division. I sat in all these chairs, the franchise, but I got caught sitting in the CEO's chair. And he came into the office and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm just trying to see what it would be like to sit in this chair and run the company. And actually, I really don't like it. And you really need to change the candy jar here because nobody likes those candies. We need jelly beans." But the seat I loved the most was the corporate seat. And that was my next position I got, right? But I sat in the chair and just wanted to feel what it was like to getting that. So
So when
So
you
I
were
would,
sitting in the chairs, you were like fantasizing that you were taking on that role, that you were them, that you were doing what they needed to do in their mood, their attitude, with their beliefs. And you were able to kind of, you know, future pace yourself and imagine that you really were there and decide what felt best, what, worked the best with your outcome of enjoying your job and doing what you wanted to do, right?
right. And I think the imagination is the biggest part of this is and the future pacing what we do with our clients. We need them to imagine themselves in what they're going to become in the future, and what does that look like? How does that feel? What do you hear? Getting them in all their senses, and that's what those chairs did for me. So, and it's interesting that I will pull a chair out in the clinic and I'll get people to sit in the chair and imagine all of that energy flowing into them. So that's sometimes a pretty cool thing that I have them do in the clinic. And I just remember it from when I had that, and a little bit of Fritz Perls in there too.
Hmm. Yeah, it's it's pretty incredible because a lot of people think, well, I need to know all the steps or I need to have all the details about it. But when you can be kind of really inferred and big picture and you can just take these, these curious guesses and imagine what it would be like
Mhm.
and then just be willing to go and, action that, like try it on. Uh, it can really get you a lot further than sitting around and being in your head.
For sure. And allowing the clients to integrate the energy that they need to be. And for us, we have some great models in our hypnosis circles. Robbie, Spear Miller, and Tree Ride, like two really awesome, but also all of the other students, stepping into Jessica's world and trying to absorb all the social media that you have in your networking skills that you have, right? That's something that I look forward to modeling now. And just having that self-confidence, right? By just stepping into everybody's, and even just to try it on, right? So what does it feel like to be Joe today?
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know and do I fit in this space, or what do I need to add? What's the secret recipe I need today?
Mhm. So you can play around with, maybe if you found somebody who's really doing what you want to, what you're seeing them doing, but they're maybe a little inflexible, you can add some extra flexibility in, or you can take what's working, takes what's useful. Have you ever stepped inside and been willing to model and then found like, wow, this is really unuseful, or this really doesn't work for me? Have you had any experiences like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, where you jump in thinking, yes, I need this, and you get in there and it's like, no, no, you get out, get out, get
No,
out.
get it away.
But it was interesting, right? And that, but even sometimes stepping into a client that is in such a hypnotic state that you don't know how to help them. So stepping into their model of the world, you can sometimes feel their pain, or maybe you can see it or hear it, but doing that, and then that's a quick step in and get the heck out, right?
Mhm.
You want to get in and get out, but it gives you a different perspective of maybe how you can help them,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Well, it's, like when when people who are not, maybe they're not familiar with modeling intentionally, like we're talking about, and they've just been doing it in that kind of loose way that you were naturally doing as a kid. When we're watching TV, though, when we get sucked into, to what's happening in a character and you get so invested, and you, as the viewer, can see what that character needs to do to get out of their situation or to get what they need to do, but they're not doing it, right? But you can see it, right? You can imagine, you can future pace them. It's kind of like that, but like with yourself, or with your clients. It's the being able to kind of float above it and have that third party perspective on, oh, what would it be like to do that, in this way? Yeah.
Right. And it's often cool in circles, right? In friend circles or networking circles, you see people modeling each other in that way when you're just, observing them, and that you'll see people standing the same way or talking using their hands the same way. So it's interesting to see that. And often language changes too, the way people say their words. They will adopt another person's way of speaking, which is kind of interesting as well. It's like, huh, cool.
Yeah.
Where
You see it happen with couples a lot where they kind of create their own little language because one of them says something one way and then they just like, adopt it.
where one starts speaking and the other's finishing the sentences, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They know where it's going before, they've gotten there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so going back to language because that is that was part of what we started with at the top of the show there is that you really do, like to teach people about how language and the mind kind of impact each other. Like what we're saying and the words, the specific words we're using, how have you found that they impact the mindset or, the outcomes or whatever's going on for people, your clients?
The positive, like the language, and I've noticed a shift in my language in removing things that are hard, and learning to use words that are more playful, reassuring, that embody the mindset that I need to have, right? Not only if you're walking around dragging your feet when you get out of bed, not wanting to embrace your day, in the words, it's going to be a terrible day. Often you're creating that for yourself. So when we're changing our language to embrace possibility and the success that we want in our life, it changes a lot in how we're, connecting with everyone, even in our day, and really using, a language that includes a lot of gratitude.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really stating, your intentions in a, positive way, meaning what you do want versus what you don't want, right? Because there is a lot of, right now, like all that, the positivity kind of thing, like, everything's fine. And when you're like, you don't want to be delusional, but you do want to be intentional, right? And if we're spending all of our time, focus, and energy on what we don't want, we're really missing out on the ability to zero in on the things that we do have control on, that we do want to take action on, or that we want to be happening, right?
And it's so true. I mean, how many times have you said to yourself, I don't want to forget this?
Yeah. Forget this, right? What a embedded command that is, eh?
And I had to laugh a few weeks ago. I lived in the Muskokas and it's pretty icy and we've had tons of storms and I'm pretty sure footed. And my husband goes, make sure you don't slip.
Ah,
And I went to tell him, I don't slip. And I just went, boom. And I was actually in the middle of saying that to him. And I was like, damn, right? And
yeah, right. And
on my,
instead, he should have been like, walk carefully, right?
right. It's like,
Oh man.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, it's true. And I find myself like I feel sometimes I feel like I'm like a crazy person or like a witch casting a spell because I will say something in the negative. I'll be like, don't forget this. And they'll be like, I'm going to remember this. I will remember this. I will remember this. And I'm like, chanting the positive at myself. I do it with my husband too. And I'm like, you are going to remind me to do this. And I am going to remember to do this. And we are going to remember together. Like, yeah.
I'm saying that to myself. I now have a little bell or door, like a doorbell that rings in my mind that says, take it to the car now, take it to the car now.
Yes.
As soon as I said it, it's like, oh.
Uh-huh. It's so interesting though that we really can, you know, you can create these, these patterns in your mind by reinforcing the way that you want it to be, right? The more we're focusing on that, we're getting into all those neural pathways in a really deep way versus, oh, don't forget this. And, it's just right out of your mind. But by focusing on it, by, you're seeing the object, maybe you're seeing yourself take it to the car, right? You're seeing the thing happen. You're using, more of the intentional part of the brain versus that part that's passive, right? If you don't want to forget, that's passive, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost like
Mhm.
we're commanding our internal voice to have more specific roles now, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
This
totally.
is a test. This is what, remember they have those emergency tests. It's like we've got the inner one in the body. This is a test.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Cyndi, this is fun. Okay, so before we wrap this up, I'm curious, is there anything that you feel like you want to leave the listeners with about the way that you have been integrating this language, the modeling, the change, so that they can start to model you?
So one of the things that I always find that's really important for myself is, by I use my self-hypnosis to help me, and I do a lot of mental rehearsal with everything. I'm really watching how that person speaks, how they're moving, and then I kind of practice it until it feels natural, right? You can't jump into a role unless you actually imagine yourself going through the actions that that person takes.
Mhm. Yeah,
Because
there's
I
definitely some level of
know
rehearsal.
that, yes, right. And then it becomes your success formula, right? That's what I call. So my success formula today is that I need to do, and there's many times that I have to remind myself, like, who do you need to be to get this done? What do you need to do?
Mhm. Mhm.
You
That's a
know,
really powerful question. Who do you need to be to get this done? Because we can have such limited views of our own identity. This is who I am and I can't change it, right? Well, what if you could? What if you could be Audrey Hepburn when you need to? What if you could be Julia Roberts when you need to? What if you could be, Robbie when you need to? And they all have different ways of getting to the outcome.
mhm,
Yeah.
right? And then I find I can take action, right? I'm the old me, the one that that I'm looking in the closet sometimes. You know how you hang a shirt in the closet and you can't find it anymore? The old short shirt that I used to wear would be the one that did not like to connect with people. I was very much an introvert, right? And being able to try on these other characters, or identities now, that I like to call them. And I'm able to go out and be with people in a more useful and a more powerful way, in a way that I connect with people on such higher levels instead of being that little tiny fly in a room.
Mhm. Yeah. Because now you have, if we go back to that metaphor, the right outfit for the occasion, you
That's
know?
right.
Yeah.
Nothing
And
better than having the right outfit.
right. And there's nothing worse than walking into a room and realizing you're totally underdressed, right? Or way overdressed, right? Ugh, right. If you come into, a networking meeting and you've got like a, yeah, man, let's party on vibe, right? Versus like, I'm here to like make connections and get curious about people. You want to have the right mood, the right attitude when you're going into these different situations.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, Cyndi, thank you so much for joining me here for this conversation and for sharing your insight and your model of the world with us. I really appreciate you being here today, even through all of the chaos that's been going on. So if when this is published, we've got a little bit of a blurry video or something, bear in mind that she's coming to us through like an ice storm and her Wi-Fi has been out for like days. And so like it's a miracle that we're even here together. So thank you so much for joining me today.
And thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here, Jessica.